Let's be clear, riding down seriously big rock shelves is not something I would recommend. But for me, it's a celebration and confirmation my adventure bike build of our Himalayan 450 does what I want it to do. For me, I still like a challenge, and I don't want to damage my bike, but I still want to explore out of the way places. I've kept the budget low and I'll provide sensible options. Now, before we get started,
Hemi power!
Just a reminder, on Mad TV we do 3 things. Detailed bike reviews where we actually ride the bikes off-road. Amazing international adventures in challenging environments. And finally, detailed bike builds. And today we focus on my adventure bike build of our long-term loan bike, the Himalayan 450, which now has 10,000 kilometres of hard miles under its belt, and you know what? It hasn't missed a beat. If you like what we do on Mad TV, subscribe.
Look at this country, absolutely stunning, lots of rain, and the country looks mint at the moment. Beautiful day, and what a great day to announce I finally completed my adventure bike build of the Hemi 450, and here it is. You know, the great thing about having bikes long term is you get to experience them like an owner does. And we've now done over 10,000 kilometres on this bike. We've flogged it mercilessly, and we've had it serviced, and everything's going fine. The bike has not missed a beat, and that's despite us giving it absolute grief. Anyway, I've been slowly working on my adventure bike build, and I've taken my time with this. And the reason I've taken my time is I want to keep the costs down. I just want essentials, no more bling, just things that make a difference and make adventure more pleasurable, safer and reliable. And that's all I've done in this bike build. So I hope you like it. Let's wait and see. The first thing I want to do is head to some single trail. Some tight, gnarly single trail that you'd normally do on a trail bike. Now, you might say, well, that's not really adventure, Dave. Well, this is my adventure. I want the flexibility to do single trail, to do some rocky stuff, as well as the open stuff and the twin trail and the broad tracks. You know, when you're out in the trail, you can get confronted by things like this. And you've got to ask yourself, is it worth giving it a run or not? And sometimes that may be the only path. You find this kind of stuff in Australia quite a lot. And, you know, with the lower ground clearance of this bike, you know, protection of the side covers is pretty important. Yeah, there's a bit of banging and clanging there. And that's what you want. That's my protection doing its job. Finally, some single trail. Now, I took the CF Moto down this track, and at that stage it just had the standard bash plate, and I really wasn't happy with the protection. And now, taking the Hemi down the same track, but this time I've got what I want. Vital parts of the engine are covered, and I'm happy about that. So I would imagine that I could move through here quicker simply because I'm not worried. Well, whoa, just heard the bash plate hit. That's a good thing. And down we go.
On single trail with deep ruts, the Hemi is at a disadvantage because of its relatively lower foot peg height compared to enduro bikes. The foot peg width is also relatively wide, but this isn't an enduro bike, and it doesn't matter. You just go slower.
The bash plate isn't getting hooked up as much as I thought it would in here so far.
But the protection from the off-road bash plate stops larger rocks hitting the side covers of the engine, and that's what I was worried about.
Those Rally Pro tyres are great, you know. Oh, there, the foot pegs got stuck. That's all right. I mean, this is not this bike's environment, but every now and again I do want to explore and take that road less travelled, and this is what you're going to come across. The Hemi's acquitting itself very well. Okay. Sometimes the harder way, the one on the left, is actually easier in the long run. I think we'll go what looks like the harder way. Up we went. There goes the foot peg scraping. Now, before this off-road bash plate, these are the sorts of tracks that I would avoid. Now, it'd be interesting if this scrapes along there. Yeah, a little bit. Not too bad so far.
If I was on my Husky 501, I'd take this rocky track at trail pace. But on this bike, I could easily find the low and wide bash plate hitting that rock shelf and bouncing me into that gully on the right. And wouldn't that hurt? But the answer, just adapt. Go slower and recognise the Hemi is like a very competent SUV.
Whoa. Oh, big drop down. There we go. This is this really difficult steep hill that I took the CF Moto on. So this is the first time we've had an opportunity of comparing them in terms of how they go. I'm really looking forward to this. But there was no way in the world I was going to do that without a bash plate. Like, just wasn't going to happen. Whoa, it's changed again. Whoa, it's got harder. Yeah, gotta be happy with that. Yeah, so one of my criteria for my bike build is, you know, taking on the tough stuff And in my area, rocks are part of that. So that's just part of the build. I think for many riders, the standard bash plate, you know, which we've had on for 10,000 k's, actually does a really good job of protection. God, that looks horrible. No, it wasn't as bad as I thought.
I'm heading to Cut Rock, a gnarly, rocky trail with a history that goes back to the 1800s. This will be my final test for my adventure build. The trail was cut through the sandstone by timber getters who wanted the most direct path down the mountain, and it certainly is that. The rock steps are hard in your mouth stuff for the average trail rider.
Boy, oh boy, is serious rock work. Holy snapping duck manure. I bloody made it. Woo! Have a go at this. You know, video does not do this justice. And you're going to have to look. This is me here. That's what I've just come down, that rock face. You can't even climb up it. Look. Gotta be happy with that. Under the shadow of Cut Rock, I think it's a great place to discuss my adventure bike build of the Himi 450. Now, what I'd say to you right at the beginning is there are different versions of this depending on your skills and what you want to do. And I've really tried to keep the price down. So let's go through the accessories I put on the bike. There's not many of them, and there's a reason behind each of them. And let's get to it.
The first modification to adventurise this bike was to fit off-road bias tyres, in my case Pirelli Rally Scorpions. If there was one modification to this bike that dramatically increases off-road performance, this is it without question. The Pirellis have now been on the bike for around 5,000 Ks and they're wearing well and providing good grip and performance in a range of conditions from dirt to mud to sand.
They just raise the level of off-road dirt performance on this bike to another level. The front really hangs on and the back gives grip, and you can climb up anything, you can go through mud really well. If I was having an off-road bike, dirt-oriented adventure, that's the first thing I'd do. Now in Australia, a lot of our off-road riding is at high speed, and so the fitting of the taller screen was a necessity. It works great.
The taller screen reduces rider buffeting and provides protection from the elements. If you're consistently riding at speeds over 80 kilometers per hour, I'd highly recommend it. Normally I have reservations about tall screens as they have the potential to come into contact with the riders in challenging terrain, particularly around the neck and face. This screen is well forward from the rider, and despite the extreme riding I've done on this bike, it hasn't come into contact with me.
Protection, let's go through protection. So a must is bark busters or aluminium handguards. They just protect the levers. The second you fall off in the dirt, which you've got a higher chance of doing, you're going to snap a lever, and that prevents that. You're not going to have to worry about that out in the bush. Now the next one is the off-road bash plate. Now that is a reasonably expensive accessory in the scheme of things. It gives beautiful coverage. See how it covers the crankcases, which always worried me. You know, the bike has quite
low ground clearance. The foot pegs are very wide and low as well, and they get hung up. And in the rocky environment I want to ride in, that off-road bash plate was a must. Having said that, the plastic one that we had on for 10,000k, so that's the one that comes standard with the bike, that did a brilliant job. I mean, you could see Nugget jumping and flying through the air, and there was barely any marks on that plastic bash plate, and it was really strong as well. So unless you're doing rocky stuff like this, I'd be inclined just to keep the standard bash plate. But for where I ride, it's just a must. Yeah, so that's protection done. Now, the next couple of modifications are really meant when you're riding in groups. And Australian dust is particularly fine and just slips straight through paper air filters.
We had the honour of being the first to have a Unifilter oiled foam air filter fitted to the bike. Oiled foam significantly reduces the risk of our fine Australian dust getting into the engine. This becomes more important when riding in groups, as thick dust can make its way past and through paper air filters. If you're riding by yourself, I don't think it's much of a problem, but when you're riding in groups, the dust levels become very high and the chances of dusting your engine raise significantly.
All you do is you can just take out the inner liner and you can just wash that out, put some more oil on it, and you'll get 10,000 kilometres service intervals, unless you're riding in really dusty stuff, and then you're going to have to do more.
Now, the other thing I did was put on this headlight protector, and that's just a no-brainer. When you're riding with friends and they've got powerful bikes, it's easy to throw a rock into that whopping great big surface area of a headlight there and put a rock straight through it. So that to me was a no-brainer. Now, apart from that, I haven't done anything. The suspension is stock and I'm really happy with it. The engine is stock, I'm really happy with it. Exhaust, all that stuff I'm happy with. I like the carrying capacity of the bike. Now, I was tempted to turn it into a rally bike, and I asked my subscribers, and just over the majority said, no Dave, we want to see you adventure ride this bike as it is. Don't modify it, don't do anything too drastic. So that's what I've done. I've kept true to my word. So the only thing that I need now for a camping weekend away, and that's coming up with Clubby, is some soft luggage. I've got a Giant Loop Diablo tank bag there, and on the back I think I might put a Coyote tank bag, and that'd fit perfectly there, and that'd carry all my camping gear. It's got tons of volume. I don't need any pannier racks or anything. That'll just go. That'll fit from here to the back to the pillion foot peg, and that'll do the job. Now, one more thing I may do, but I haven't been inclined to do it yet, and that's change these mirrors to flippy mirrors. Ultimately, they're going to get broken. They haven't yet. Lord knows I don't understand why they haven't been broken with the sort of riding we do, but they haven't yet. Yeah, I got to say, I really respect the Hemi. Yes, you know, I've got the Husky 501 and the 701, which are roaring enduro rally sorts of bikes. But you get on this and you just chill out, and it's still highly capable, as evidenced by that.
I mean, that is some achievement to do on this little bike. Anyway, thanks for watching Motorcycle Adventure Dirt Bike TV. And if you like what we do, subscribe.
Well, that's it until next time. Just a reminder, there is a heap of content on the Himalayan 450 and CF Moto 450 on this channel that has attracted over 1 million views. So just click at the top right hand corner of the screen for more 450 tests, comparison and fun. And remember, we're coming knocking when the KTM 390 hits Australian shores.
Well, we're not out of the woodwork yet. That's one tough section. The next tough section, if you miss it, you're in trouble. Boy, oh boy, that was a big drop. Anyway, we're done. I think we're out.
I am absolutely stoked I've done that.